It's an honor for me to welcome you to this short yet meaningful online memorial service for Pastor Michael Sulen. My name is Costin Jordash, and Mike was my father-in-law, as well as a colleague in ministry and a great friend. On behalf of Mike's family, I invite you to take a moment to help remember the life of a remarkable man. Over the next few minutes, you'll hear various tributes and a short homily and life sketch that I'll share later. You'll also view a picture montage, and of course, you're going to experience some music, which was one of the most important parts of Mike's life.
My name is Pierre Steenberg, and I am a friend of Mike Sulen. I've known Mike as one of the most upbeat people around. A few weeks before his death, I called him up, as I did from time to time, to ask him about his well-being, about his pain, his suffering, what he's going through. And during the call, his response, without even blinking an eye, was not about him, but about his worry for Deborah. Oh, how he loved her, and how he cared for her. He had no concern for his own plight, knowing what was coming. It was all about her. That's the type of man I've come to know as Mike. As interim pastor in our conference in a few churches, he was always just looking out to organize the church for growth. Always had a million ideas, and they were good ones, not just a dreamer type of person. They were good ones. It was a privilege to know Mike. Always an encouragement. Always seeing the bright side of life. May God bless you all as we heal from this and draw from His comfort. All the best.
Mike and I were friends that got acquainted in the seminary, and we had some common interests. One of them was sailing, and we used to go out with Mr. Lee, a physics teacher, and he would take us out sailing several times during the summer, and the sailing bug bit, and we were both caught on sailing. We went through seminary and we spent a lot of time talking about pastoral ministry. We served together in Wisconsin Conference and New Jersey Conference and kept in touch through the years. Our phone conversations were primarily about finding ways to be more effective in the pastoral ministry. Mike had a passion to learn how to be more effective and have great impact on his congregation. So we enjoyed that. One thing that Mike did is he inspired me, especially when we talked about his passion in ministry and when he would play the trumpet and piano together, and that lifted my soul. I'm looking forward to many long conversations when we have an opportunity to be together again.
I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to share a few of my fondest memories with all of you. I first met Mike at Valley Crossroads Church in Pacoima, California. He played the organ and the keyboard for our church. He also had a secret weapon that was playing the keyboard and his trumpet at the same time. What a fantastic treat that was for the church congregation. One of my fondest memories was when he came to the choir 70s costume party dressed up as Elvis Presley. He wore the tallest Elvis Presley wig I had ever seen. Needless to say, Mike won the prize that night for the best costume. We also had the Soul Train line, and believe it or not, Mike was also a part of that line. Oh boy, that was a sight to behold. He loved music. He loved life. Most of all, he loved the Lord. He enjoyed pastoring the saints and liked being the shepherd of his flock. The world has lost a wonderful, compassionate, and talented pastor. Debbie, I would like to share with you these words penned by Helen Keller. What you have once enjoyed and deeply loved, you can never lose, for all that you love deeply becomes a part of you. Love you.
received a phone call from Pastor Mike Sulen and learned about his condition. We had a nice talk. Afterwards, we had a prayer together. After that, Nini and I both prayed that Pastor Mike Sulen would finish his sailboat. But God had other plans for him. Pastor Mike Sulen had 3 loves. He first loved God, second the sea, and sorry, Debbie, you're just number 3. But you knew that already. Pastor Mike Sulen was our interim pastor in Armona. He took the bull by the horns and provided changes that we needed to get our church started and alive again. So for that, Pastor, we thank you. Pastor Mike loved music as well. He could play the piano very well. And he also started the men's chorus in Armona. One time I walked into the sanctuary, saw him playing the piano with one hand, trumpet in the other. And that was a definitely wonderful surprise. On the day of resurrection, Pastor Mike Sulen will be sailing the seas again with Jesus Christ by his side. And what a glorious day that will be.
I am Abel Pangan. I met Pastor Mike Sulen in 2014 when he was the interim pastor for the Armona and Exeter Adventist churches. His warmth, friendliness, and musical abilities attracted me to him. We became close friends thereafter. I recommended him to replace me to the Hawaii Conference President, Elder Ralph Watts III. So on March 22, 2018, Pastor Mike arrived in Lanai and the people warmly welcomed him. Right away, they were spellbound to his ability to play the piano and the trumpet at the same time. And the brethren in Molokai joyfully welcomed him with beautiful lace. The brethren were really very grateful to have a man of that caliber. Pastor Mike Sulen was a people's pastor. His dedication was down to earth. He was really loved by the people. So I'm so glad for the privilege that I would be able to do this. God bless. Goodbye.
Aloha. My name is Ralph Watts. I'm the president of the Hawaii Conference. And listen, when I think of my friend and colleague, Pastor Mike, this is the verse of Scripture that comes to mind. Blessed are those who die in the Lord from now on. Why? That they may rest from their labors and their works follow them. Beautiful, beautiful. I read these words, I think of Pastor Mike. So yes, indeed, he is resting from his labors. But his work follows him. And I can speak specifically of the work that he was engaged in, diligently, passionately, enthusiastically, here in Hawaii. There in those beautiful islands of Molokai and Lanai. His passion, shepherd the flock, preaching the gospel, ministering to people's needs, keeping them focused on the mission of the soon return of Jesus. As beautiful it was to share aloha and life and living and mission and ministry with Pastor Mike here in Hawaii. I can hardly wait to where we get to that heavenly paradise and we are all able to spend eternity together. Aloha.
It's a difficult assignment to summarize a life truly lived to the fullest in just a few minutes. Arguably, Mike Sulen lived several lifetimes in his 75 years. He died well before his time, but anyone who knew Mike would agree that he needed the rest. I'll share a few highlights from Mike's life, and as I do, we'll extract from his life story a few key principles that drove him to do what he did with all his heart. Mike spent his childhood in Ohio, graduating from Mount Vernon Academy. His college years were spent at Andrews University in Michigan, where he pursued studies in the two areas that would define the rest of his life: theology and music. It was during those college years that Mike also developed his absolute love of sailing, which is why the most appropriate place to share these thoughts is, of course, in a marina. At the age of 21, he bought his first boat, full of holes, for $10. He later sold that same boat, still full of holes, for $20. A perfect example of Mike Sulen principle number one: there is always a deal to be made. Mike was always in the middle of, or in the process of coming up with a deal of some sort. Before buying a car, sailboat, or motorcycle, Mike had already become best friends with the seller and would end up with the deal of a century. This is a principle that Mike ultimately applied to his calling as a pastor. Every person he crossed paths with was a potential deal, an eternal deal to be made for the kingdom. Over the decades, as he pastored in many states and in local congregations, from small rural churches in Wisconsin to the Hollywood Seventh-day Adventist Church, Pastor Mike was relentless in his pursuit of people. Which takes us to Mike Sulen principle number two: the ultimate aim in life is to connect others to God. Mike pastored well past official retirement, ending his long tenure as the pastor of 2 churches in Hawaii. He loved to preach, come up with unorthodox ways to communicate the gospel, including founding a biker church in Texas, and visit with many different kinds of people in his community. Mike was also literally a pastor's pastor. In every community, he would join the ministerial association and minister to the ministers, visiting them, bringing them books as gifts, and praying for them. Throughout his life and ministry, Mike also wove the gift of music into everything he did and into the way he ministered, living out Mike Sulen principle number 3. Music enhances everything in life. He began playing the piano at age 7. His mother ultimately saved up enough money to buy him a new piano. Later, he picked up the trumpet, and during early years of ministry, he was the camp meeting organist, never needing sheet music to accompany singers. Music was a significant part of Mike's life to the very end. Post-retirement, he had dozens of piano students, served as minister of music at the First Christian Congregation in Mineola, Texas, and as director of music at Jefferson Academy, organizing for the first time in the school's history performances beyond denominational audiences. Mike was never, and I mean never, without his Kurzweil keyboard, and many of us were in awe of Mike's arrangements where he played the keyboard with one hand and the trumpet with the other hand. Absolutely remarkable. One would think that with everything Mike had accomplished in his earlier life, including running a direct marketing, printing, and mailing business for nearly 20 years, that he would opt for a low-key retirement. But Mike had endless energy. He was driven to keep moving forward, to grow, to pursue new opportunities and adventures. One of his favorite sayings was, "Stop praying and start doing." Which takes us to our final Mike Sulen principle number 4. If you can breathe, you can move. Mike never shied away from accepting yet another challenge. In later years, Mike, who was also pastoring at the time, and his wife Deborah served as singles ministry coordinators in several areas of the United States. They had met through a singles ministry and wanted to give other singles that same chance. Mike never slowed down, much less stopped living. During his post-retirement, during the few short months before he passed away, he hauled a half-built sailboat all the way from Oregon to Texas so that he could finish the build. And he continued to minister through music, playing at his local church. Toward the end of his life, Mike expressed his deep desire that his life had been lived with untiring purpose. You know those heroes that fought to the end, he said? That's what I want to be. The Apostle Paul would be honored to share this autobiographical verse with Mike, which is found in Philippians chapter 3, and which I'll read from Mike's own worn Bible. I am still not all that I should be, but I am bringing all of my energies to bear on this one thing. Forgetting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead, I strain to reach the end of the race and receive the prize for which God is calling us up to heaven because of what Jesus Christ did for us. Michael Sulen, pastor, husband, father, colleague, and friend, died on August 2, 2021 in Texas. He will be remembered as an exceptionally inspirational person. May we honor his memory and legacy by living out the same principles that made his life truly meaningful.
God bless and keep each of you as we put our faith and trust in Jesus. Amen.